Hi, entrepreneurs. I'm Michael Zaharios with the Florida Virtual Entrepreneur Center. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. We have a really special guest, Dr. Yamlet Williams from Synergy Solutions Partners right here in the city of Deltona. Is going to tell us about her story being an entrepreneur. And our goal is really to help inspire you to pursue your entrepreneurial ideas and dreams and passions and to connect with other entrepreneurs that are right here in your community. So as I like to say, go entrepreneurs, and let's go ahead and get right into it with Dr. Yam giving us an introduction about herself. So Dr. Yam.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael. Yeah, so I am Yamlet Williams, or Dr. Yam I like to be called, and I have for the past 6 years been running a consulting firm here out of the Deltona area. Synergy Solution Partners is a leadership and growth organization where we partner with small business, medium or large, education and corporate and not-for-profit organizations. And we really help to focus on leadership, team development, and primarily communications. And we are also expanding our services this year with equity, diversity, and inclusion training as well.
Well, that's awesome, Dr. Yam, and you do a great job, and you do so much, right? There's so much to unpack there, and we've got a short amount of time to do it today. So let's go back a little bit and let's talk about your life prior to being your own business owner. What did that look like?
Yeah, part of my journey I come from education, and I served as a classroom teacher, went into administration. I had the fortune to travel and work in other school districts across the country, both in a leadership capacity. And throughout that journey, gained lots of professional experiences and relationships. And it's after leaving my last administrative role that and having to return back here to the Florida area for family purpose reasons primarily, I took that as an opportunity for me to work for myself. And so take the skills that I was using in the K-12 entity in my leadership and coaching and support and providing those services, and also in instructional technology, and using and fostering the relationships that I had in the public and private sectors, and allowed me to start on my entrepreneurial journey and starting up Synergy Solutions. First as a one-man band, you only need one customer to get you started. And that allowed me to get that kind of social proof, to get my name out, to build a reputation. And then after that, I was able to secure other contracts, put out RFPs. I actually won a contract in the State Department of Education in Washington State. And so then I was able to bring on a team of consultants. And so that's how I currently do my work right now, is providing support and services to K-12 organizations and small businesses and medium-sized organizations. And we go in as a consulting team. We work closely with the leadership, and we come out with a strategic plan. And then through a partnership, we deliver those services in coaching and consulting and support.
So entrepreneurs, I want to make sure you heard the first golden nugget that Dr. Yam just shared with you, and that is that you only need one customer that's willing to pay you for your product or your service to really get going. So at a base level, get that first customer and you will build on from there for the rest of your customers to grow your business. So very fascinating to hear you share that, Dr. Yam. I'm curious if you can also talk about what brought you to decide that entrepreneurship was the route that you wanted to go, right? You had worked in education, you had worked and had bosses, but
Right.
There had to have been a trigger point or something that made you say, I really want to go and do this entrepreneur thing, and I'm going to make it happen. So what was that trigger point?
Well, honestly, part of my background is I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And I got that from my father, and his father, I think, as well. So it's kind of like in the genes, in a sense. I've always kind of dabbled in like MLM, like multi-level marketing, or doing side gigs from time to time, and the feeling that one has of being your own boss is certainly very refreshing and exhilarating, and also scary, right? Because being an entrepreneur is being a risk taker. I like to tell my clients as they're going and embarking in this journey is we step out with a bit of fear, but that's okay. You don't want those fears to be hindrances or obstacles. And so for me, it was just that taking a leap of faith, recognizing and understanding that I have skills and ability that other people would find value in, and also wanted to be able to add value as well.
Sure.
And it's with that spirit that I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make this happen. Because I felt as though that was a way in which I could also be true to myself, as well as it was just an opportunity. The time was right, and it just happened to work out for me. Like I said, I got that one client, and that's all you need to get the fire burning. And it's been managing and supporting that work, obviously, is what's allowed me to sustain it for the last 6 years, which for a lot of people, you always hear those statistics, right? That, starting a business like a restaurant or a retail store, they don't stay open very long. Part of that is not out of a lack of passion for the individual. It's just that in some cases, we're just not starting on solid ground. We don't have good foundational systems and supports that are in place. And those are some of the things that we help organizations and individuals, for that matter, to put in place.
So let's talk about Deltona.
Okay.
We're here at City of Deltona City Hall, a great city inside Volusia County. The city works closely with us in the work that we do with the Virtual Entrepreneur Center. It's how we became connected to you. You alluded to family as part of what brought you here.
Yeah.
Talk to us about coming to Deltona, operating your business from Deltona, and what that looks like.
Sure. So my family originally came from New York, and we moved South Florida originally, and then semi-retired. My parents decided they wanted to kind of move a little further north, and so they embarked on a journey. We actually ended up having family that was already here in Deltona. It seemed to be quite a popular place for semi-retirement in a sense, and so that allowed that to be kind of our settlement here. My travels and working in other job opportunities across the country, and then due to a family member becoming ill, is how I returned back home and needed to make a shift. And that's quite common too. Sometimes, life brings about change. And so out of that change, you got to do the best that you can and do what's in the best interest, not only for yourself, but for your family. So all those things kind of come in mind when you're starting a business as well. Sure. You got to kind of recognize, how are you impacting those who are around you. I'm, a breadwinner, right? So that stability of having a full-time job and having benefits and having a check, and to not have that anymore, you have to put those right kind of infrastructures in place for yourself so that you have some type of an assurance that you can go out there on your own. So my parents relocated here, and so my decision to come back to Deltona was for family. But I also made it a point that if I'm going to come back, then this is also that opportunity that I could go out on my own. So it all just came together for me.
Now, for your business, the work that you do with clients, in state and out of state, even across the world, are you able to? Do you operate your business virtually or as a home-based business, and then you go out and meet your clients at their facilities? Talk to us about what that looks like.
Yes, for the most part. Sometimes I do have rental space. I'll occupy workspace environments, but for the most part, we're delivering services to the clients' sites themselves. So I will operate from a home office. I have a team, and they're also working from home as well, or they're working on assignment, so there's no travel for those particular assignments themselves, and we deliver those services to them. So that's been the mode of operation up until this year, where we have had the impact of COVID-19.
So is your team all here in Florida, or is everybody located across the country?
Yeah, I have consultants from across the country. I have folks in Arkansas, North Carolina, Delaware, New York, Michigan, and here in Florida as well. I recruit staff when necessary to fit the needs of the client. So just depending on that scope of work, I will either use this talent staff that I already have, and or I will go ahead and do hires for that particular scope of work. So I do some staffing services as well, and I also serve as an outsource, so I can be a subcontractor to larger organizations. They will typically, publishing agencies or educational consulting companies, when they are school districts bring on work, they typically want someone who is either local or have a background like I do. And we subcontract out to us, and then we deliver the billable days, as we call them. And so I'll bring that team together, and then we facilitate it from there.
So entrepreneur's second golden nugget that you're hearing right now from Dr. Yam is that right here in the city of Deltona, she is able to operate her national business across the country, employing different consultants in different areas in the country, and doing it right here from the city of Deltona. So that's awesome, and congratulations on what you've been able to put together from right here inside the city.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, you brought up COVID, okay, and we're all dealing with that, different ways it's impacted everybody. What has happened with COVID as it relates to your business, or how have you had to adapt to do business differently?
Yeah, it's affected us, and we got the direct impact in March because at that time we were working several contracts with school districts, and obviously when that got pretty much shut down, then the need for us to be on site was, of course, put on hold. And therefore, when you're not delivering services, you're not billable. And if you're not billable, you don't get to put out an invoice. And if you don't put out an invoice, guess what? You don't get a check. And so we went from 100% staff down to zero. We were able, after a little bit of adjusting and making some things within the school districts themselves, we were able to bring back a couple of staff people and do that work. And then that was kind of rocky in and of itself. So it's just been very unstable. And no fault of theirs, because their school districts themselves have been dealing with a lot. And as well as companies across the country, and making those adjustments of, for those who can, putting staff to work at home remotely, making those adjustments, parents having to work from home and homeschool. And we're kind of working our way through that. I did get the benefit of applying for PPP, so that helped a lot. And there was a learning curve even with that. And one of the things that I can tell you with it that I saw from other individuals was the fact that the lack of preparedness on your financial management as a business owner, entrepreneur, solopreneur alike, really was a qualifier of whether or not you were going to get that money. If you did not have, and that's probably one of the weakest areas that entrepreneurs find themselves in. They're not keeping good books, so that when it came time to apply for that loan, they didn't keep their personal funds separate from their business funds. And so when it came down to pulling the papers up, a lot of people were not in position to do so. And it really put a strain on entrepreneurs in being able to qualify. Fortunately for myself, I'm very, you could call, I don't want to say learned, but I follow strict protocols when it comes to financial matters. And so as a result, I was able to quickly qualify for it in that first round, and that really helped. The other part too is when you're starting in a business like I did, and you're working, going from an individual or kind of solopreneur, and then you march out on growing your team, I, for the most part, hire contractors, independent consultants. One, because it's less paperwork, and then the other is for the tax benefit purposes as well. And then you can get in, when you know you're having some real solid work, then going in and hiring part-time and full-time staff. So you kind of have to do that in a gradual release. So COVID has had some negative impacts for us. I would say we're kind of like maybe at 50% back in a sense, as for our operation and staff being able to work. And then it's just seasonal for us in some ways. Schools, districts, and higher education, they're getting ready to shut down for the semester. That's typically what for us is low time. So we hope to be able to kick back in, but budgets are being cut. And so there's just that impact again about how do we make those transitions help us in the long run. So building relationships, and it's kind of expanding your horizons, expanding those relationships, or being able to do outreach is going to be really important for anybody who are currently one, as well as those who are aspiring to be an entrepreneur.
Well, Dr. Yam, I have to say that I believe very passionately that your resiliency, and that comes with entrepreneurship, is feeding into the audience that's watching right now, because COVID came in March, it affected the business, but you didn't let it stop you dead in your tracks right there. You looked at what you could do, you made adjustments, and as you just shared, 9 months later, you're back to about 50% of where you were. Not back 100%, but you are back 50%, and it's because of that resiliency that you have inside of you, that we have as entrepreneurs, that pushes us to keep going forward. And a thing like COVID is another challenge that we're facing, but entrepreneurship is about challenges, and we find solutions and ways to go forward. I want to also say that what's interesting about entrepreneurship is that it's learning lessons, right? Yes. So you're describing how tight and defined you've kept your financials, and that enabled you to apply quickly for PPP assistance, whereas some other folks that maybe were not as tight and controlled with their financials struggled a little bit with being able to get access to those funds. So for those folks watching, here's another golden nugget of using what's happened over the last 9 months to not let that happen if it ever happens again. Or if a different type of challenge comes forward where loan assistance is necessary, having a tight grip on your financials and having them ready to go will enable you to get done what you need to get done in a shorter amount of time. All right, so I want to circle back because you brought up entrepreneurship as an employee inside of a company, what we would refer to as the intrapreneur.
Okay.
And I'm confident that there are folks out there watching who have jobs, right? And they're working for a company, for a boss, et cetera. What would you say to those folks that they have this entrepreneurial spirit and mindset and entrepreneurial ideas, but they're working inside a company? What does that look like? How can it help them in their careers if they never transition to becoming their own boss as a full-fledged entrepreneur?
Well, that's the great thing about entrepreneurship is that there's such a variety in a way, and you can kind of define your own level of how you see yourself as a business owner. There are what we call your side hustle or your side gig. Some of us are also, we do our professional work and we go in, but you may have a passion that's totally separate from what you do every day. And so there's that opportunity, how you can leverage that hobby and make it a hustle and be able to monetize that skill. And there's great opportunities for that to happen, particularly online, and being able to express yourself. That's also important because one of the things that I tell my aspiring entrepreneurs through our Keep It Simple Coach program is that the whole point of going into business is you're a problem solver. Your business is a solution to someone else's problem, be it a service or be it a product. And then how is it that you take that passion, have quality services, have quality products that is a solution to something either in your community? And that also means that you do have to do a lot of research. Again, just saying I'm going to be an entrepreneur isn't enough. You do need to put in some legwork, some sweat equity, we like to call it, because what you want to make sure that you're doing is you want to find that out, that there is a clientele out there who's looking for your services. And also, don't be discouraged in thinking that there's not enough room for you as an entrepreneur. I'm a business coach and a leadership coach. I'm not the only one, but it doesn't mean that I cannot venture out and stake a claim on a piece of that pie, because I bring something very unique to the table that no one else has, because they don't have the same background than I do. And so part of building your personal brand is that you define yourself and your story, and that's how you're going to make those connections. And so working full-time, you can still embark on a level of entrepreneurship and get to define what that is. And then for some people, I actually had the benefit, as I left an employer, I'm able to go back to them now as a consultant. And so having good, positive relationships are also very, very important in your current employee. And also the habits of an employee. If you don't have good habits as an employee, those things transfer over to an entrepreneurship. So if you're lazy and you don't get to work on time, those are the same habits that are eventually leak into your personal business, and then you're not going to foster a healthy infrastructure for yourself and then be able to come out on top financially.
So I've got to ask, because it's just burning inside me right now, how many hours do you put in as an entrepreneur? What's your average day or week look like? And I mean, I say that very seriously because it's sometimes entrepreneurship is romanticized as I'm in full control of my schedule. I travel when I want. I vacation when I want. A little bit less structured than if you're going to work for an employer from 8 to 5, for example. So how many hours are you putting in, daily, weekly, et cetera?
Daily for sure. I would say that I probably put in at least 8 to 10 hours, at least. And that just, again, depends on the nature of the day. I am nocturnal, so I'm much more productive at night and in late afternoons and in the evenings and late nights than I am in the mornings. So that's the great thing about being a business of yourself. You do get to work your own hours, but you also have to meet the needs of your customers. I always find that it is important that you do come up with a schedule for yourself. Come up with those routines, but yeah, you make a really good point. Entrepreneurship can look glamorous on the outside, as we like to call it, kind of like the iceberg effect. You only see the tip, and you think that's all the glamour. When I was traveling a lot for my consulting business, I was, jumping on a plane, getting in a rental car, driving here, going there. And a lot of people say, oh, that looks so cool. I want to be able to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't see me at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to get this PowerPoint together. All the things that kind of come in line with that work. And so it is a wonderful lifestyle. It can be grueling at the same time, but you got to kind of put it into perspective of the trade-off that you're having of not necessarily being regulated by an organization. So there's just those kind of trade-offs in and of itself. But yeah, you're not going to work you can when you start, depending again on your business. I'm not going to knock people who can do everything in 4 hours, because again, it goes back to the type of businesses that you have. There's lots of online experiences and infrastructures and opportunities that are out there that you could leverage. We're doing a lot of that too. So there's just lots of opportunity. But yeah, it's not your regular 9 to 5 anymore. You're probably going to work way more hours than you work as an employee.
Absolutely. I would even submit those folks that are able to get it down to, only 4 hours a day, their brain power that they're consuming to think about strategy of how to keep it going that way and where the future of their business is going to be requires them to think about it probably 24/7. It's entrepreneurship when you become passionate about your idea and your business and you're seeing productivity, you're seeing sales, you're seeing results. It's something that's hard to turn off because you're excited about the potential for what's next.
Yeah, you're on 24/7 for sure. And some things you can automate, right? There's certain systems that you can put in place to do that at some point. Your customers necessarily, depending again if you're service-based versus product, they're kind of regulated by their time frames, and you want to be accommodating to them as well. And then I think the other part too is just the nature of the flexibility that you have. So there's some days I might work from home. There's other days that I'm like, you know what, I think I'm going to go work over at the library. I might go sit at a coffee shop. So you have those, again, as a solopreneur. If you're a little bit more retail oriented, or you may have a food truck or things along those lines, obviously those types of dynamics are quite different. But keeping and creating a schedule that works for you, that's going to command both your time and your talent so that you can generate income, because that's what you're really looking for. Those are the types of things that you want to make sure that you kind of put into place, that you're optimizing the time that you do have.
Absolutely. So Dr. Yam, you have covered a lot of ground today, and I, again, know there's so much more that we could unpack here, but I want to ask you, for the audience that's out there watching right now, what advice would you have for someone who's aspiring to be an entrepreneur, or someone who has taken that leap of faith and is growing their business? You know, what is it that you know now that you didn't know when you first got started?
I think number one is keep going. Step out, have faith in yourself. You're going to operate out of a level of fear despite that. So that's just a norm for us. Even 6 years out, there's still those scary moments of, am I doing enough? Am I making enough? Do I have the right things in place? Am I hiring the right people? And so for aspiring entrepreneurs, don't let fear of money or obstacles, procrastination put you off in just putting your idea to formulate it into a business, because there's room for you. There's a person out there, there's people out there that would benefit from what you have to offer. And so shortchanging yourself just makes it, you're shortchanging the customers that are out there. And so what I typically tell aspiring entrepreneurs is, do what you love doing, do it from a place of passion and purpose, but do it in a way that you do it so that there's structures in place and that you form some good habits. Get a good coach as well, because that's going to be necessary to kind of help you move forward as well. So investing in a business coach or getting in with a mastermind group is also great, where you can have some accountability. I always tell people, just because you're in your business by yourself doesn't mean you have to do it. I mean, you're in your business for yourself, but you don't have to do it by yourself.
Well, that's an amazing point to wrap up on. So Dr. Yam, again, I want to thank you so much for sharing your time, sharing your wisdom, and sharing your story with the audience that's out there watching. That, again, you know, entrepreneurship's active and it's alive and it's in all of us. So as we close out here, I want to thank all of you for tuning into the show today. Again, thank you to Dr. Yam. Thank you to the City of Deltona for having us. And I hope that what you've gained from watching this encourages you and inspires you to go after it. Go entrepreneurs. An online resource available to you 24/7, 365 at FLVEC.com.